overwhelming. Using the bathroom has become excruciating, and the slightest movement causes me distress. Even sitting down feels like an unbearable strain, and I've noticed that air enters my anus when I stand up. I'm struggling to cope with this traumatic experience. The extent of my recovery is unknown to me, but I'm desperate for answers. How long will it take for my physical and emotional pain to subside? Should I consider ending our relationship? I feel lost and uncertain about my future with this person. Edit. If you're experiencing a similar situation or know someone who is, please reach out to the National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-AITA, for asking my GF to wear a tampon in bed. Third night in a row where she has bled through my boxers and all over the sheets. I'm getting sick of stained boxers and stained sheets, so I asked her to put a tampon in before bed. She usually doesn't because she's scared. Oh, am I the asshole for requesting my girlfriend to use a tampon during sleep? For the third consecutive night, I've had to deal with the inconvenience of her bleeding through my underwear and ruining the bedding. I'm growing tired of constantly washing and replacing my underwear, as well as the hassle of changing the sheets. Feeling exasperated, I asked my girlfriend to insert a tampon before going to bed. I mentioned that I had researched the risks associated with toxic shock syndrome and assured her that the danger would be minimal, as long as she didn't sleep for an extended period of 12 hours. However, instead of being understanding, my girlfriend became upset upon hearing my suggestion and has since refused to communicate with me. I'm unsure whether my request was reasonable or if I overstepped my boundaries by trying to find a solution to our shared problem. TLDR: girlfriend bleeds through underwear and sheets. Op asks her to use a tampon to minimize mess. Girlfriend gets upset, won't talk to Op. Sorry for being old. Lady has her BMW Z3 parked across 2 handicapped spots. My pain is wicked bad, but no big, I'll just park far away. As I am walking past, the vain, self-absorbed woman, stereotypical Nova wife, is walking to her car. Probably in her 40s, trying desperate. A glimpse of youthful regret. A woman's BMW Z3 was parked in such a manner that it occupied 2 handicapped parking spaces. My aching pain was a constant companion, but I didn't let it dictate my actions. Instead, I walked farther away, not wanting to draw attention. As I passed by, I noticed the woman returning to her car. She appeared to be in her mid to late 40s, trying desperately to hold on to her fading youth. Her expression was one of entitlement. I'm sorry, ma'am, but even as a senior citizen, you should be aware of the rules regarding handicapped parking, I said, attempting to subtly hint at her transgression. The woman's response was immediate and indignant. What? I'm not a senior citizen, she exclaimed, her voice rising in protest. I smiled and nodded, choosing not to engage further. I see, I said, winking in a way that suggested I wasn't fooled. You still need a handicapped placard, though. Her outburst continued, with her insisting she was not a senior citizen. I remained calm, unfazed by her escalating anger. I'm sure you've had some excellent work done by a good surgeon, I said. Jeanette McCurdy's. I'm glad my mom died. Although Jeanette's story centers a lot on her rise to fame, the similarities between her mom and my narc dad have left me speechless. I watched iCarly a lot when I was growing up, it was one of my favorite shows. I remember feeling so, a mother's shadow in the spotlight. Jeanette McCurdy's memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, carries a resonance that extends far beyond the realm of fame. As I reflect on her story, I'm struck by the eerie parallels between her mother's behavior and my own father's narcissistic tendencies. During my childhood, I was a devoted fan of the popular television show iCarly, with Jeanette as its lead. The memories of that era are bittersweet, as I recall feeling disconnected and ashamed due to my parents' behavior. However, discovering that Jeanette was navigating similar challenges during the same time period has proven to be a poignant reminder that I wasn't alone. Jeanette's unwavering courage in sharing her story is truly inspiring, and her unapologetic approach has earned her my deepest respect. TLDR: Jeanette McCurdy's memoir resonates with those who have experienced similar behaviors in their own families. Her courage and vulnerability serve as an inspiration. Update: None edit. None woman posts once a week about a room. In my area, these zip codes, a room is over $800, most go for over $900 for a private bathroom not shared. Let alone she's only wanting these age ranges. Many offered her a room but are under 35, can't have any kids, even their own that ha. A local woman has been consistently posting about her housing needs on a weekly basis since November, with a very specific set of requirements. In her area, covering zip codes, a private room in a residence often comes with a hefty price tag, exceeding $800, and frequently goes for over $900 when it includes a private bathroom. However, she has an even more extensive list of demands for potential roommates. Firstly, they must fall within a narrow age range of, many individuals under 35 have offered her a room but are rejected due to age. Additionally, no children are allowed in the residence, not even their own adult children who have moved out of the family home. Furthermore, the ideal roommate must be a single female who can have no friends visiting her at the residence and must adhere to regular working and sleeping hours. Any potential option that doesn't meet these exacting standards is summarily rejected or ignored. Given her strict criteria, it's challenging to sympathize with her situation, especially considering that she's been posting her requirements once a week for months now. TLDR: a woman with extremely specific housing requirements has been posting once a week since November, but her extensive list of demands is making it difficult for others to feel sorry for her. I'm a liar, but only in one tiny, stupid regard. I say, I just woke up, all the time when I absolutely did not. This isn't spicy, but I honestly just wondered if anyone could relate. I truly pride myself in being an honest person with one exception. I find myself constant L. There's one peculiar habit of mine that I'm not particularly proud of, a habit of deception that's both trivial and inexplicable. I often claim to have just woken up, when in reality, that's far from the truth. I'm not seeking to stir up controversy or share a shocking secret, but rather, I'm simply wondering if I'm alone in this quirk. As someone who strives to be genuine and truthful, it's disconcerting to acknowledge that I engage in this behavior, especially with people I interact with regularly, such as my neighbors and coworkers. I'm not sure what drives me to say something I don't mean, but I've come to realize that it might be an attempt to alleviate the pressure of being social and appearing composed. It's almost as if this phrase serves as a coping mechanism, allowing me to sidestep awkward situations or uncomfortable interactions. More often than not, this phrase slips out of my mouth without any deliberate thought or intention. I'm left wondering why I said it, and it's a bit disorienting to confront the fact that I've been deceiving people in such a small, seemingly insignificant way. TLDR: I'm a habitual liar, but only in a very minor and inexplicable way. I work for an ice cream store. If a customer is rude, I purposely give them less than what they asked for or tell them we're out of the topping they want even though I have more in the back. I just feel like if you can't act like a decent person, you don't deserve nice tea. As an ice cream shop employee, I've encountered numerous customers who fail to treat me with basic respect. In response, I've taken to subtly under-delivering on their requests or claiming that we're out of their preferred topping. My reasoning stems from the notion that if someone is unwilling to treat others with kindness and courtesy, then they don't deserve to receive exceptional service. If you berate me for not hearing you clearly, I'll simply say that a specific topping is unavailable. If you bicker with me over a particular flavor of ice cream that your grandchild happens to enjoy, I'll give them just one scoop of nuts instead of two. It doesn't seem like a lot to ask for a customer to be polite. TLDR: subtle acts of revenge against rude customers in an ice cream shop. Update: a coworker once witnessed one of these situations and expressed admiration for my strategy. They suggested that I should consider doing it more often, and that I should own these interactions with confidence. They pointed out that some customers might actually appreciate a little extra assertiveness from the staff. A manager once caught wind of my approach and called me in for a chat. They expressed understanding for my feelings but cautioned against taking it too far. AITA for screaming at my mom and forbidding her from seeing my child. ETA: I'm a male. When I was 15, my sister outed me to my parents, who promptly kicked me out. I moved in with my boyfriend, now husband, and cut off all contact with them. Fast forward 10 years, I'm 25. Was I the asshole for yelling at my mother and threatening her with a restraining order when she showed up at my house? I've had a strained relationship with my family since I was 15, when my sister revealed my sexual orientation to my parents, prompting them to kick me out of the house. I've been living with my husband, whom I met later, and have since cut off all contact with them. Fast forward a decade, my husband and I have welcomed our first child through surrogacy and are overjoyed. However, this newfound happiness was shattered yesterday when my mother appeared unannounced at our doorstep, claiming she wanted to meet her grandchild. Her presence sparked a mixture of emotions within me, but my resolve to protect my family was unwavering. I firmly told her that she wasn't welcome and asked her to leave. When she refused to budge, I grew frustrated and let my anger get the better of me, shouting that she needed to leave immediately or I would involve the authorities. The tension escalated, with my mother breaking down and begging to see my daughter. I stood firm, warning her that if she ever set foot near us again, I would take drastic measures to protect my family, including obtaining a restraining order. After I didn't realize the value of money until an experience I had today at Best Buy. Today I walked into a Best Buy to take a peek at what they had in stock. Recently I've been going there a lot with the intention of buying things that I would find both useful and entertaining. My perception of value shifted at Best Buy. A trip to Best Buy today turned out to be an unexpected lesson in the true value of money. As I walked through the doors, I had the same intention as my previous visits, to browse for gadgets and entertainment devices that I could use and enjoy. However, today's visit was different. I had been eyeing some accessories for my PS5, and while browsing, I stumbled upon the new Oculus Rift. The price tag caught my attention, and I was intrigued by how affordable it seemed compared to what I remembered learning about VR headsets in the past. I found myself drawn to the device within a minute of seeing it, without knowing much about it. The employee informed me that the 64GB version wouldn't be available until Monday, but the 256GB version was in stock and priced at a higher cost. Without hesitation, I said I was fine with the more expensive version. As I approached the register to pay, another employee approached me and mentioned how he'd been saving up for a VR headset for a while. He asked questions, but I couldn't answer them as I was still learning about the device myself. This was the same employee who I'd seen multiple times before, and he'd even helped. You can't be late anymore, you are to work only your set schedule. Okay, you're the boss. So after I graduated college I went back to work at my high school job at a large auto parts chain. I have a few stories of malicious compliance from there because it was a miserable place. My tenure as a manager began the day I declared, "You can't be late anymore, you're to work only your set schedule." Okay, you're the boss. After graduating from college, I returned to my high school job at a large auto parts chain, where I had already accumulated a few stories of creative problem solving due to the miserable work environment and management. This particular tale, however, stands out. I lived about 15 minutes from the store and regularly stayed an extra hour or two past my shift to assist the manager in closing up shop. This involved tallying cash receipts, taking out the trash, prepping and staging the next day's deliveries, and sweeping the storefront. I didn't mind doing these tasks, as I received some overtime pay and earned the manager's appreciation. One morning, I arrived at the store at 9:07, right when my shift was scheduled to start at 9 a.m. I couldn't understand why the manager seemed upset, considering I had been consistently staying late to help him close the store for months. However, he seemed to take issue with it that particular day, and his reaction was over the top. He began lecturing me about following my schedule and the importance of working the hours I was assigned. Our landlord told me, "Go ahead. Call the city inspector," so I did. Edit. Wow, this blew up, thanks for the award. I just want to clarify on some stuff. 1. The other tenants received money and compensation from the landlord too. They also got their moving cost covered as well. Our landlord gave me a green light, essentially saying, "Go ahead and contact the city inspector," so I took them up on the offer. Edit. Wow, this blew up, thanks for the award. I just want to clarify on some stuff. 1. The other tenants received financial compensation and reimbursement for moving costs from the landlord as well. They also got assistance with their relocation expenses. I did not force them to become homeless, in fact, some of them expressed gratitude towards me. 2. We relocated to a new neighborhood that was just a 5-minute walk to my office, and we ended up in a single-family home. The neighborhood was incredibly welcoming and LGBTQ friendly. We enjoyed living there for a year before eventually purchasing our own home. Surprisingly, the rent was even lower. 3. The building was owned by a corporation, so when I refer to the landlord, it encompasses both the owner and property manager. I hope they learned a valuable lesson from this experience. This event took place in 2018, shortly after I moved into a new apartment. The unit was a spacious 3-bedroom first-floor apartment with a finished basement, complete with 2 bedrooms, a living room, and a kitchen on the main floor. The basement also featured a cozy bedroom with AITA. For dumping the truth on my sister? My parents had 2 girls, me, 17F, and my sister, 14F. I have always felt like my parents saw me as a babysitter, as a third adult in the house, and have expected me to be a 40-year-old kid, teenager. Whereas my sister was their baby. Are you the asshole for blowing the lid off your family dynamics? Growing up, I felt like my parents treated me as a surrogate parent, expecting me to act like an adult while taking care of my younger sister. My parents coddled her, giving her everything she wanted, while I was expected to be responsible and self-sufficient. My sister never had to lift a finger or worry about anything, but I was constantly shouldering the weight of taking care of her. From a young age, I remember coming home from school and being tasked with feeding, watching, and playing with my sister. My parents would often leave her in my care while they went out or ran errands. I was expected to put her needs before my own, while she got to enjoy all the perks of being the baby of the family. We'd go on outings as a family, but she'd get her way, while I was told to be more mature and not make a fuss. As I entered my teenage years, I started to distance myself from the family dynamic. I'd keep to myself, avoid engaging in family activities, and would rather take the punishment for not doing chores than be forced into a role I felt was unfair. My parents were disappointed in me for not being. It hurts that people underestimate my loss. On Wednesday, my parrot, Gus, passed away. He was handicapped, 27, and slept on me all day, potty trained. He talked to me whenever I needed and knew what he wanted, actually asking for walnuts at times. He had cancer and was unexpected. A deep grief for the unseen. It's disheartening that many people fail to grasp the magnitude of my loss. On Wednesday, I said goodbye to Gus, a beloved parrot who had been by my side for years. Despite his physical limitations and being nearly 28 years old, he had a special place in my heart. He had grown accustomed to sleeping on me throughout the day and was potty trained. Gus was more than just a pet, he was my loyal companion and voice of reason. He'd communicate with me, even going so far as to ask for specific treats, like walnuts. Unfortunately, Gus was diagnosed with cancer, and I was left with no choice but to make the difficult decision to end his life after a sleepless night of caring for him. My years with Gus had been a significant source of comfort and solace, especially during my darkest times with depression. He had also shielded me from the harm caused by toxic family members. As I navigated the weight of losing him, I couldn't help but feel that my grief was being undervalued. Perhaps it's because people don't consider the bond between a human and a pet to be as meaningful as one between two humans. However, my ex-girlfriend took the condom off while I was in the middle of putting it on. Sat down on it without asking, gave me an STD. When I confronted her about it, she started screaming and crying, said that I was the one who took the condom off and if I thought anything different. My past relationship was marked by emotional manipulation and control. One incident in particular stands out, where my ex-girlfriend suddenly removed the condom during intimacy without my consent, resulting in me contracting an STD. When I confronted her about the situation, she denied responsibility and instead turned the tables, claiming I was the one who had removed the condom. She further belittled me, calling me crazy, and suggesting I needed help for my memory. She also made a comment about taking her own life, implying that I was the only one who could tolerate her quirks. In addition to this incident, our relationship was marked by verbal threats and physical intimidation. She would become aggressive if I tried to leave, and even attempted to crash the car by yanking on the steering wheel. This behavior left me feeling trapped and fearful. Unfortunately, this experience highlights that men can also be victims of abuse, gaslighting, and manipulation in heteronormative relationships. The assumption that men are always in control can lead to them being silenced or dismissed. TLDR. A man shares a personal account of being emotionally and physically abused by his ex-girlfriend, including being given an STD without consent and being threatened with violence. He emphasizes that men can also be victims of abuse. AITA for not wanting to accept my husband's affair. Child. My husband and I have been married for 7 years, happily I thought. We have 2 girls 5, 4 and 2 boys 2 and unborn. He's due any day. I lost my job back in March due to the pandemic and it's been so nice being AS. Am I the villain for refusing to embrace my husband's secret child? My marriage of 7 years, which I once believed was filled with happiness, now feels like a facade. My husband and I have 3 children under the age of 7, and another on the way, due any day. The past few months have been a welcome respite, as I've been able to be a full-time mother to our kids after losing my job due to the pandemic. However, my life was turned upside down when my husband revealed a shocking truth: he had been involved in an affair. The news was devastating, especially since our youngest child is on the way and will be joining a family that's about to face a significant change. The affair's aftermath has left me reeling as I struggle to comprehend the magnitude of my husband's deception. The affair's consequences have only just begun to unfold. He fathered a child about a month ago, 2 months prematurely, who is currently in intensive care. His mother, a struggling addict, is facing arrest and custody issues, and my husband has suggested that I accept this child into our family, claiming that it's a moment of weakness and that we can still be a happy family. He believes his child needs a father. No, go ahead and fight me. A martial arts expert ruined by an 11-year-old girl in the 6th grade, I bore witness to a stunning example of malicious compliance. Several grades of classes from our elementary school were called to the gymnasium for some lessons on self-defense. I was just 11 years old when I witnessed a shocking display of misplaced confidence. In the 6th grade, our elementary school brought together students from various grades for a self-defense lesson in the gymnasium. We were being taught basic techniques for defending ourselves if we found ourselves in a precarious situation. The instructor, a martial arts expert with a grandiose title that he proudly recited, seemed to be more interested in flaunting his credentials than actually teaching the lesson. Despite his claims of expertise, he struggled to convey the practicality of the techniques he was demonstrating. When we asked questions about how these methods would work in real-life situations, the instructor grew impatient and called upon a volunteer to demonstrate the technique. He chose Alice, a classmate of mine who was known for her athletic prowess in competitive swimming. However, the instructor's approach to teaching the lesson was not only ineffective but also made the situation uncomfortable. He physically assisted Alice into position, which seemed invasive, even to us children. His mannerisms and whispered comments made Alice visibly uncomfortable, and I sensed that something was off about the situation. Alice, as it turned out, was not interested in making a half-hearted attempt at defending herself. As a competitive swimmer, she possessed impressive strength and agility. TIFU by taking Ambien on a plane and teleporting. This TIFU is brought to you by an experience I had about 2 years ago that I still think about this day. Long story, bear with me. Picture this. You're me, a scrawny college kid with terrible sleeping habits and a divine hatred. I still can't believe I took Ambien on a plane and teleported to my dorm. It's hard to believe it's been 2 years since this bizarre incident still haunts me. I'll try to recount the events, but bear with me. Imagine being a college kid with poor sleep habits and an intense fear of flying. You'd think it'd be a good idea to attend a school on the East Coast, a 6-hour red-eye flight away from your home on the West Coast. My mom had a stash of Ambien that she used sparingly, and she'd often lend me a few pills before each trip. The dose was powerful enough to knock me out for at least 6 hours, which was perfect for escaping the horrors of air travel. As I'd grown accustomed to the routine, I started to feel confident. I thought, why rely on the pill when I can just fall asleep naturally? I'd try to snooze without any help, but the constant beeps and announcements would always jolt me awake. Frustrated, I'd give up after just a few minutes and take the full dose. That's when I made the critical mistake. I didn't realize that only 3 hours had passed since boarding. The effects of the AMB: you leave too early. Like a lot of the stories here, my MC was due to scheduling. I was a system administrator for a big, 3-letter telecom company in the one small, department. There were 2 admins. Me and JJ was awesome. Super intelligent, very friendly, and was GR. My scheduling conundrum. Like many of the stories I've encountered, my situation arose from a scheduling conflict. I was a system administrator at a prominent telecom company in a smaller department. Alongside my colleague Jay, we divided our shifts to provide adequate coverage during the day. I typically arrived at work around 6:30 a.m., where I reviewed system-generated reports, checked server and database health, and prepared daily reports for various managers, including my supervisor and his superior. After a 9-hour shift, including a 1-hour lunch break, I would leave around 4:30 p.m. every day. Jay, on the other hand, arrived around 10:30 a.m. and usually remained until around 7 p.m. We had developed this schedule to ensure comprehensive coverage. However, our new supervisor, T, who was appointed through nepotism, lacked knowledge of IT and proved to be an unsuitable leader. He became increasingly concerned about my consistent departure time of 4:30 p.m., which he perceived as leaving too early. T requested a meeting with me to address this issue. He expressed concern about my departure time and suggested I adopt a similar schedule to Jay's, citing that Jay stayed late after the rest of the team had left. Despite explaining to AITA for replacing room keys for $2 to avoid a $250 fee in our housing units. I live in a housing unit, dorm just outside of our college. It's not affiliated and is run by a third-party company. It's a bit average, but it's a nice place to live and is a bit cheaper than live-in. Am I the asshole for circumventing the $250 room key replacement policy in my off-campus housing unit? I reside in a moderately priced, off-campus housing unit that's not affiliated with my college. It's run by a third-party company, providing a more affordable option compared to living on campus. However, our room keys, which are essentially motel-style cards with magnetic strips, have become a significant issue. Many of these cards, aged between 3 to 6 years, are in poor condition. When you move in, you're often given used cards from previous residents, and if you're fortunate, you may only experience minor problems. Unfortunately, this isn't the case for most. If you require a replacement card for any reason, including loss, damage, or non-functionality, you'll be charged a hefty $250 fee. As a result, many residents either coordinate with their RA during office hours for assistance or share cards within their room, hoping one of them works. This solution doesn't work for me, though, since I work late shifts, and if my card doesn't work, I'll have to sleep in my car until someone can let me in at 8 a.m. Recently, my card stopped working altogether, and when I visited the office staff AITA for not helping my husband babysit. I never wanted kids. The idea of family is very suffocating to me, and I was never willing to date a man with children. When I met my husband, he said he didn't have any and didn't want any. A year later, when he was drinking, he admitted, "Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my husband with babysitting duties?" I have never been a fan of family life. Growing up, I always felt suffocated by the idea of having a big family. When I started dating my husband, I made it clear that I wasn't interested in having children, and he seemed to feel the same way. However, during a night out while drinking, he confessed to me that he had gotten his high school girlfriend pregnant when they were 18 and had signed away his parental rights. I understood his decision, as I believe men have the right to make their own choices. After his high school girlfriend passed away, their 16-year-old son reached out to my husband, and he decided to step up and take responsibility. I was supportive of his decision, and we developed a good relationship with his son. However, my husband's ex-wife remarried a woman who I found to be extremely annoying, and they now have 3 children together. Recently, they asked my husband and his wife if we would be willing to watch the kids overnight so they could attend a wedding. My husband agreed, despite my initial reservations. However, I made it clear to everyone involved that I do not babysit. I reminded my husband AITA for recommending the worst tattoo artist I know to a girl that was trying to copy my tattoo. This will be on a throwaway, so it's not attached to my main account. I have a lot of tattoos. My most recent tattoo is a tattoo that I designed with my husband. We got matching. Tattoo betrayal. Was I in the wrong for recommending a sketchy artist? I'll be posting from a throwaway account, so you won't be able to connect the dots to my main profile. As a self-proclaimed tattoo aficionado, I've got a collection of ink that tells a story. My most recent piece is a custom design I created with my partner, and it holds a special place in our hearts. We got matching tattoos to celebrate a milestone anniversary. During a casual gathering with friends, I noticed one of them, Sarah, was particularly drawn to my tattoo. She even snapped a photo of it, which I initially thought was a bit odd. I let it slide, but little did I know, this would become a pivotal moment in our interactions. Sarah's lack of tattoos was evident, and it wasn't until I heard whispers through the grapevine that she was planning to replicate my design. I suspected as much, given her enthusiasm and the fact that she shared the design with a few friends who didn't bother to keep it under wraps. When Sarah approached me for a tattoo artist recommendation, she explicitly mentioned that she was on a budget. I couldn't resist the opportunity to play a prank on her. I knew she wouldn't AITA for not changing my tattoo based on my child's pronouns. Throwaway for obvious reasons. Basically, I am 42, got tattoos of the names of all 3 of my children. I got them going down my arm and they read from top to bottom, not actual names, Andy, Sarah, Kate. I had these tattoo. Am I the asshole for refusing to change my tattoo to reflect my child's pronouns? Throwaway, here's my situation. I am 42, got a unique tattoo of my 3 children's names on my arm, with each name lined up in a row from top to bottom. The names read, Andy, Sarah, Kate, and they were all done at once after Kate was born, since we knew she would be our last child. My oldest child, Andy, T22, recently came out as trans and now prefers female pronouns and has changed her name to Athena. My wife, F41, has been a rock for her and encouraged me to be supportive as well. However, yesterday, my wife and Athena sat me down to discuss an issue that's been bothering them. My tattoo still displays Andy instead of Athena, and my wife believes this is causing tension in our family and hurting our daughter. She's asked me to have the tattoo touched up to correct the name, but I explained that it's not that simple and would likely require expensive and invasive laser tattoo removal surgery followed by a new tattoo. I told her that I see this as a relatively minor issue and don't understand why it needs to be brought up now. AITA for singing a song to my wife at our wedding and making her angry? I just got married last week, my wife and I are both in our 30s. I am Mexican, she is American, but we both grew up in the US and both our families know both languages. My wife planned every bit of th. Was I the asshole for singing a personal song at my wedding and causing a scene? My wife and I recently celebrated our wedding, and I'm still trying to process the aftermath of that special day. We're both in our 30s, and while we have different cultural backgrounds, I'm Mexican and she's American. We both grew up in the United States and are familiar with both languages. As it turned out, she had meticulously planned every aspect of our wedding, and I could sense her anxiety throughout the preparations. During the reception, I decided to surprise my wife by requesting the band to play a song for me to sing to her. The song I chose was Te Amare by Miguel Bosé, which holds a special significance for us. It was the song that played during our first date at a quirky Mexican restaurant. The experience had become a recurring joke between us, and I thought it would be a wonderful way to honor our first moment together. To my surprise, the audience loved the song, and even my mother-in-law was visibly moved, praising it as beautiful. However, my wife seemed visibly upset, and when I asked her what was wrong, she expressed her frustration that I had taken the spotlight by singing a personal song, which I AITA for leaving in an Uber after what my husband did at the restaurant. Me, 31F, and my husband, 35M, have been married for 14 months. He's a middle school teacher. Very close to his family. Loves to help out but can be firm at times. He adores his 1.2-year-old niece. His sister's a rude restaurant outing leaves me feeling frustrated and betrayed. My husband, 35M, and I, 31F, have been married for 14 months, and we've been trying to make time for each other amidst our busy schedules. We decided to treat ourselves to a night out at a new restaurant, and I made the arrangements. I had taken a half day off work and was excited to spend some quality time with my partner. However, things took a turn when we arrived at the restaurant and found his 1.2-year-old niece, his sister's baby, seated in a car seat beside him. He had agreed to watch her because his sister was working and couldn't take care of her. The restaurant wasn't exactly baby-friendly, but we decided to make the most of it. As we waited for our food, his niece started crying, and the staff kept giving us disapproving glances. The noise was getting louder, and I was worried that she might wake up more people in the restaurant.